Josh, also known as Gadget here, and I'm well past the 1,000 mile mark on the AT, and that means that the host of gear that I brought along with me in my backpack has also made it the full 1,000 miles to get it to about the halfway point of the AT. Specifically, I passed that just a couple days ago, and the first piece of gear that I'm going to talk about is this one right next to me, the Mountain Hardwear Ghost UL Ultralight 2-person tent that I've been keeping with me for this trip, and it is a fantastic tent. And to be honest, out here in the AT, you're usually going shelter to shelter. Sometimes you don't even have to pitch a tent, and I've almost forgot that I have it in my bag sometimes because of the fact that it comes in at around 2 pounds 9 ounces if you're going to be including the ground cloth with it, which I would certainly suggest. And that has certainly been one of the greatest features of this tent, is the fact that you can just forget about the weight when it is packed away in your bag. Well, I'm going to give you a closer look at it right now. Now, the first thing that I'm going to want to talk about are the DAC or DAC aluminum poles that are used in this tent. Now, whenever you see that DAC logo, that means that you're going to be getting some of the highest quality aluminum poles that you can find on a tent. Now, why aluminum over fiberglass? You'd think fiberglass is lighter weight. Well, you'd be right about that. However, fiberglass has a habit of splitting and also corroding, drying out over time, so it will actually not stand up the test of time like aluminum will. So what DAC or DAC has done is created these Featherlight series, one of their lightest series available, and they put these into the freestanding tents that they do business with. That includes companies like Big Agnes, companies like Mountain Hardwear, MSR. They all go through the DAC brand, so when you see DAC, you know that it's a quality product. Now, what you've probably already noticed about the Ghost is that it has a single door on one side, which makes it, quite honestly, more of a one-person tent than it is a two-person, because you're not going to want to be climbing over people as you're entering and exiting the tent. So that means that they can also taper towards the feet if this is in fact a tent that is more or less intended for one person, even though it is advertised as a two-person. I personally don't see any problem with that, because most people who are hiking the AT or just doing any sort of serious or long distance hiking know that if you want more comfort and you want more size, enough space to put your pack in there even, you're gonna go with the two-person tent anyway. It's just kind of an unwritten rule of the industry. You always buy a tent one person more than what you intend for. If you go with a one-person tent, however, the Ghost Ultralight 1, expect there to be a little less size in there, a little less headroom, definitely not enough room for your pack. So I personally suggest the two-person tent, and that goes with any company that you choose to buy for. You'll be more happy with more room. Alright, so now we've got the rainfly onto the tent, and let's take a look at it as we do a little 360. The first thing that you're going to notice is the fact that the rainfly does not, in fact, come all the way down to the ground near your feet. Now, that is a feature that you find in most other ultralight tents, because it will prevent water from coming in and condensation from forming. Now, this was something I was very nervous about early on when I got the tent from Mountain Hardwear, because I thought that surely when you get a sideways rain that it's just going to come right in, or when you wake up in the morning you're going to be wetted out on the bottom of your sleeping bag, and it really isn't the case. Granted, you don't want to touch the walls of your tent at any given point, because condensation can come through even the most waterproof materials, but that's not been a problem for me. The rainfly is really easy to put on. It's held in by basically a little finagling, a piece that will go right through there where you insert your poles, and that takes a grand total of a minute or two. And then the vestibule is actually very generous for a tent of this size. I've had no problem fitting my boots and my pack inside the vestibule, so that has been a nice aspect of this tent, in that some other smaller ultralight tents, not really a vestibule to speak of. This one does have one. So guys, overall, would I recommend the Ghost Ultralight 2 by Mountain Hardwear? Absolutely yes. Now there are some stipulations to that. You got to be okay with a tent that's going to be slightly smaller. It is a two-person, which is in fact a one-person tent, and it is going to have one door, but with a large vestibule to boot, so you're not going to be running into any situations where you can't cover your gear or keep it waterproof. If you're okay with those little side notes to the tent, be prepared for something that's extremely lightweight. You can basically forget about it in your pack once it goes in there. Does not take up a lot of space in your pack, and packed up it's very small. So highly recommended Ghost Ultralight 2. It's got 1,000 miles on it, so it's 1,000 miles tough.